I wanted to take a moment to address the elephant in the room. I love ADEMA. I created the archive to support the band because at one point in time they were my favorite band and they still are one of my favorite bands. But I think this is something I haven't seen anyone else do. So if you don't like it, I understand, but please take it with a grain of salt. So what sucks about being an ADEMA fan is constantly dealing with hope and disappointment. The band has made a lot of poor creative decisions since Mark Chavis departed for the very first time in the early 2000s. And I'm not here to point the finger. I think the band has done great without him. However, consistency is something that has been alien to the band since their second album. In fact, technically since they're self-titled, because Unstable was so different from the self-titled. But we've gone through Mark Chavis, we've gone through Luke, we've gone through Bobby Reeves, we've gone through Tim, then Ryan, and now we're back to Tim. And respectfully, that's something that is very hard on us as fans. But also, you have Ryan. He is a master. Anyone can argue this if you want, but he is a master at self-promotion. He knows the business aspect of ADEMA. He single-handedly brought them back from the verge of being forgotten. And they had a temporary plan with him, totally understandable. But they cut him loose when he was the only one keeping them afloat. Ready to Die, Violent Principles were two of their biggest hits. And respect to Tim, I love Lions, I love Topple the Giants as an EP. I thought it was ballsy. I thought it had a lot of potential. You have one singer willing to sing the whole catalog, from Planets to, at least live, some of the Kill the Headlight stuff, and all of Mark's stuff. And then, by poor decision, you have the worst album cover in fucking history, and it's an EP. It's not 10 tracks, it's 7. Poor decision. Mark Chavis, they can't control that he came and left, but they got rid of Bobby for him. They brought him back. There's disappointment that, or rather, they did not bring him back. They brought back Mark just for him to skip day of the tour. So now we're here where the singer who is committed, Bobby, has been casted to the side, and he hasn't really done much outside of a few shows and a few snippets of songs. So there's those problems, and then there's the problem of the band has not released anything outside of singles and Topple the Giants since 2013. And now that they're with Cleopatra, they have a schedule, they have a deadline, they have things that they will get done. But it's all under the flagship of Tim. And Tim, like I said, I'm not trying to give any hate to, because I love a lot of the stuff he's done. But when it comes down to a niche taste such as mine, he hits the right notes. He does things that really make you think. He has some of the best elements of ADEMA. He incorporates so much of all the eras of the band because he's been through it from the beginning. He's been a constant member ever since the 1999-2000 incarnation of ADEMA. He's been there. But the one thing he doesn't have is the most important thing. And this is according to a fan base. This isn't my opinion so much as this is my regurgitation of everything I've heard. The one element he doesn't have is the voice. So we have a band that's about to release a full album with a singer that can't sing. And they got rid of their second, possibly even first, depending on who you ask, their top singer. They repeated the same mistake with Mark Chavez, losing their singer, losing their frontman. So they repeated the same mistake that they have done since 2003. And it's 2025. And if that doesn't sound like the dumbest fucking thing you can do, you're probably on the spectrum. And I'm definitely on the spectrum. You can tell. I'd say rude things. Believe me, this isn't meant to insult anyone. This is just to call it how it is. If you can't laugh at yourself, well, someone else will. Don't worry. They'll be with you in a minute. And then you have it on an indie label that will limit publicity. I want to say more than likely, just like with Pavement, the CDs will only go to the U.S. Through Cleopatra. So indie label, lack of a singer who has essentially been ignored. Respectfully, he's a good singer. He's done good stuff. But we're talking commercial viability so that the band grows. Because at the end of the day, growth is important. Everclear, a good example. Sometimes I'd play part of Santa Monica, just the first note, on live streams. But one of the reasons I did that was Everclear has not grown. And they are a good band. They have a lot of hits. But you cannot really compare the success of Giving In to the success of Santa Monica. As big as ADEMA has been at their height, they have still been a small fish in a big pond. And right now, what the band is dependent on is an album that rocks. An album that brings in new fans, because respectfully, this channel is 10,000 plus people, and it's getting on average less than 50 views a video. And that's not just the algorithm, this is across different platforms, and it's just the band does not have the reach and does not have the pull, and it's becoming harder and harder to sell a bunch of men in their 40s and 50s to a new audience. So, respectfully, we're selling new metal without a singer on an indie label to a new generation. And ain't nobody gonna fucking buy it, because no one but people in their 30s and respectfully a few people who tend to be on the spectrum, because that's its own thing. This isn't picking on people, but if you like ADEMA, either you're in your 30s or you're on the spectrum, and usually that's because we have associations. We all like Mortal Kombat. We played Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, etc. There's anchor points that I don't want to go on a tangent to explain. But I will say that this album, whether or not it flops, the biggest and most important thing the band has to do is to bring in new fans. And I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening because we have the same fucking mistakes being repeated from 2003. You know, Artesia Records was a shitty label. It went under. And now it's 2025, and can you name one album off the top of your head that came from Cleopatra Records? So I'm going to give this less than 20 more seconds just because I don't want a long video. I love the band. They're amazing. But they need a manager who knows what the fuck they're doing, and they don't have that.